Hi, I'm Louis Ball. This is the Colors of Prog. This is season six, I think, episode 16. So a little late with this. What am I calling it? The notable releases in the year 2025. Not quite a best of. There's a few on here that I called the best of. Um, it's a tough one to call because there was a lot of music I heard this year that was recorded and came out in earlier years, and I'm discovering music, and I always go back and rediscover something that I listened to earlier and I wasn't thrilled with, that didn't catch me. And then I said, okay, I like this. And there's a few things I didn't love, and I still don't. So that being said, let's get into this. Um, well, as has been done in previous years, podcasts, magazines, Facebook groups, and individuals out there, everyone discusses or lists their favorite recordings of the year previous. Now, there were quite a few reissues of older progressive and hard rock recordings, quite a few of them courtesy of the Esoteric and Cherry Red labels. And we got not one, but two Jethro Tull Anniversary Edition box sets. One even the Christmas music themed album from a few years back. And while good sounding, for the most part, um, these two paled by comparison to other Tull releases previous. Tull's Curious Remnant did not make this list. Um, Curiously, see what I did there? Because it involves songs composed over quite a long period of time, some say a decade or more, which were re-recorded with his current studio band and touring band. Well, his current touring band, they add stuff in the studio. I don't think Tull's actually been in the studio for some time with this band, unless they're gearing up for a tour, which is coming up this spring in Europe, I believe. Um, then there was Curious Remnant, whatever it's called, it didn't make this list. Neither did John Anderson and the Band Geeks live album, um, which was very good, but I felt the mix and production, the sound of it, was a bit of a letdown. And the show was recorded before the release of the album True, which John Anderson, the Band Geeks, recorded. And so that's the first tour. This live album had John and the band going through the Yes catalog, but two tours followed that. And I just wish that the live album, John Anderson, the Band Geeks, was recorded from at least the second or the second leg of the second tour because there's nothing from the new album. And it's, if you've seen this band, it's a great band. He sounds great for his age. There's that. If you're a true Yes fanatic and love John Anderson, and this band is great again. Um, yeah, I'm not saying it's not a good album. It's a very good album, but I felt like 2025 also saw many releases from recorded and released late in 2024. So I kind of tried to stay away from that, mostly from European bands, specifically Northern Europe. While I would love to add these releases, I'll get to them eventually. So, in alphabetical order, I'm going to get started on this. Agro Pelter, the Book of Hours, released on Laser's Edge in the summer of 2025. This is one Norwegian band that most people seem to like. Get past the weird cover painting that hints at a dark metal band. And you will find some intriguing um, instrumental symphonic prog. Kate Olson, I believe is a male, is a multi-instrumentalist previously with metal bands, and he's aided by Jonas Reingold, Flower King, Steve Hackett, and Matthias Olson on percussion and synthesizers uh, of the bands Angleguard and White Willow. So formidable. The Book of Hours consists of three relatively short tracks and then a 33-minute title track in four parts. It's a suite with a variety of tempo changes. For the hardcore progressive music fan, there's a mellotron, harpsichord, flutes, and a cello. It's a good band. Be interesting to see what else they come out with. Airbag, Dysphoria, live in the Netherlands, released on Charisma Records. This is another recent release. Yes, another Norwegian-based band, and apparently a favorite with prog cruisers and myself. I really like Airbag. They've released six studio albums since 2009, and it did a sort of live one in the studio during the worldwide COVID lockdown in 2021. And it just released Dysphoria. They have an incredible full sound for what is essentially a trio augmented by a bass player and an additional keyboardist, both in the studio and live shows. As I mentioned in the past, when bringing up Airbag, think Pink Floyd, uh, Wish You Were Here, and the Gilmore Years, David Gilmour's solo, and possibly the slowcore movement, if anybody remembers that. It's all quite dreamy and engaging in an almost ambient way, despite there being vocals. Most of the songs in this live set are from their Airbag's 2024 studio album, The Century of the Self. So if you missed that one, no worries, it's here, live. Plus a great version of the song Homesick, one of their best songs, from All Rights Reserved from 2012, I believe. Next is Ambient Den. I just previously discussed them two or three shows back. They're an Australian band. This was released on Desert Comb Music. Uh, Australian Prague. I spoke with this little known band uh, recently, Ben Craven, multi-instrumentalist. Uh, he pretty much is the guy who runs this band with the addition of two others. Create wonderful, I would say near ambient soundscapes, punctuated into an almost early Brian Eno-like vocal track. Terraforming is a long instrumental and it's the highlight. Next, one of my favorite listening of the year was Bioscope, debut album from this band, and the album was called Gento or Gento, depending on the pronunciation, released on Air Music in August 2025. It's the first studio release from Torsten Quaschning of Tangerine Dream and Steve Rothery from Marillion. It's an astounding oral journey. The instrumentals hinting at some of the finest early Tangerine Dream music with Edgar Froese at the helm. And surprisingly, Rothery and his own arsenal of electronic effects is a perfect foil for the synthesizers and tape loops that Torsten usually does with the band Tangerine Dream. Um, my I could go on and on about this. It's a very ambient. Think the Brian Eno albums, their ambient works, Fija or Zit, with a lot of cool spacey electric guitar. Um, I spoke of this one a few shows back, so I really enjoyed this. One of my favorites. Cosmic Cathedral, Inside Out was the label. The ever busy Neil Morris creates another band, this time featuring Phil Keaggy, Byron House, and Genesis legend Chester Thompson. There's only 5 tracks. The Heart of Life clocks in at over 13 minutes, but Deepwater Suite, the last track, is nearly 40-minute suite in 9 parts. Yes, Neil Morris at it again. It's a very good record, but maybe not as overtly swing to the faith um, as previous Neil Morris solo work or Neil Morris band projects. Now, there's obvious shared kinship and faith in this for the members of this band. You could hear it, and if you looked into like Phil Keaggy's background, he's very much into his faith. So working with Neil Morris makes sense in a way. Now, Phil Keaggy is long admired by psychedelic and garage band aficionados for his early work with bands like Glass Harp. And he's been a respected guitar player who chose his desired path in later years with faith-based music. So again, meeting up with Neil Morris and working together, kind of, all right, some great rocking guitar on this album. So Cosmic Cathedral, I liked it a lot. And for those out there who don't love Neil Morris, it's your it's your thing, it's fine. And I've said this many times before that it doesn't bother me his songs about his faith because he does it so well. I can get into the song and enjoy the song. Um, for those who love Neil Morris, yeah, Cosmic Cathedral, it's a good album. The Flower Kings, the album is called Love, released on Inside Out. The incredibly prolific Flower Kings churn out another album. It's been a little bit of a while, and it's a single disc release. Those familiar with the Flower Kings know they can go release an album with 2 to 3 CDs or vinyl discs of music. Now, I like the Flower Kings, and I've seen them live quite a few times, so there's that. This is the 17th studio album attributed to the band since the first Flower Kings album in 1995. These guys are incredibly prolific. Roy Stolt, now 69, uh, his brother Michael Stolt and Hans Froberg on vocals have been churning out so much music. So Love features for the first time in a long time 11 rather average length songs. If you're familiar with the Flower Kings, they could do 10, 15, 20-minute songs, if not longer. Most of these are between 2 and 7 minutes long. And the only lengthy track is the final song, Considerations, and it taps in over 10 minutes. I like Love, the album, but I absolutely do not love it. I find the lyrics overwrought and heavy-handed. Did someone have a late in life romantic breakdown? Sure as hell sounds like it to these ears. Um, and these kind of records are tough to listen to. You know, let's be honest. Uh, always have been. Uh, but it makes the list for the sheer musicianship of the band The Flower Kings, and it's rather audacious in what it's attempting to do. So, not my favorite Flower Kings album, if I was going to choose out of the many, but it's a good one. Nuovo Era, Italian band, 20,000 Leghe Sotto I Mari on AMS Break Records, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is the lone Italian release on this list. Formed in 1988, Nuovo Era, New Era, are certainly not in the pantheon of acclaimed Italian progressive rock bands like Banco, Leone, PFM, etc. In fact, they've only released 6 albums during the time they started, since the time they started. And most of them are oddball concept albums. In fact, And they rarely sometimes release anything. Between 95 and 16, 1995 and 2016, they've released nothing. And then 10 years later, they released this concept album based on Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. All kinds of keyboards, Mellotron, and the lyrics are sung in Italian. And hey, it's not a bad thing. Walt Turpini is the mastermind behind the band, but rather than slavishly repeating or sounding like 70s era RPI bands, they had a sometimes more upbeat, harder rocking sound. It is more than a few nods to King Crimson type music pre the album Red. So the title track is in 9 parts and it's 36 minutes long. The CD release has an added bonus titled Nautilus, and it's 16 minutes long. But if you bought the vinyl release, you only get the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, that tune in 9 portions over 1 or 2 discs. No, it would be 2 sides to the vinyl, but the CD release does have the 16-minute song. Not essential RPI, but still a good one. Styx made the list. Pardon me. Circling from Above. As I said, Styx, Circling from Above, released on Alpha Dog UME label. What? There was a new Styx album released? Yes, there was. James Young, Tommy Shaw, Chuck Panozzo, and pretty much the same band that has been churning out Styx music since 1983's. Yes, that's true. Kilroy was here. Remember Mr. Roboto? Well, they're back. 13 new tunes, cut from a whole length of musical cloth, uh, venturing off all over the place. Circling from Above sounds like a diner jukebox gone crazy. I mean, it's like think AI takes over a jukebox in a diner, and suddenly you're hearing everything you would hear on the radio, except you've never heard these songs before. That sounds like that. It makes no sense, but you'll get it. And what is a first for me? And quite honestly, I listen more to classic Kansas than I do old Styx. But damned, in their first album in 5 years, they threw everything into a classic rock blender. Um, what am I saying? So some of these songs sound like late Beatles, um, especially Abbey Road. And then the 12th song, um, We Lost the Wheel Again. That's the name of the song. Sounds like mid-period Who, complete with trilling Pete Townsend-like chords, and the singer emulates Roger Daltrey. I kid you not. If I played this and didn't say it was Styx, you might ask, is this song post the Who Are You album? Like, was it Hard Again? Um, there's quite a lot of violin sounds on here, and there's a lot of good keyboard. And took a note at the liner notes. There's quite a lot of synthesizers and mellotrons. And then I realized there's no violin listed. So it's all that stuff is coming out of synthesizers and mellotrons. Quite an achievement there. So it's all manipulated sounds. For sheer, again, audacity, Circling from Above from Styx makes the list. It's a really good one. Steven Wilson, The Overview, Virgin Records. Consisting of just 2 tracks. One's 23 minutes, the second one is over 18, and allegedly in different sections, but it sounds like just one thing to me. Uh, Objects Outlive Us, I believe, is 8 pieces of music, and the overview is in 6 pieces. I really couldn't tell, but themes are often reprised. There's a little confusion there. Unlike his more recent do-it-yourself releases, Steven Wilson assembled a band to color these songs or suites. Adam Holzman on all things keyboard, Randy McStein on guitar, and Theo Travis from Soft Machine. Even Andy Partridge of XTC contributed some lyrics. Um, so equally confounding, confusing, and entertaining, it may take several listens for the casual Steven Wilson listener to get it. On my first listen to this, it sounded more spacey and ambient, but following listenings, you can clearly hear the low mix vocals. And is it all about something? I could not say. Different people have different interpretations of this music. And even Steven Wilson himself had said it's about something, I don't know, space travel or whatever. Definitely of interest to those in people like space rock. Certainly a step above Wilson's more self-perceived hard rock pop solo albums, which were met by a unanimous thud by most of the Prague crowd. But we'll leave it to be. Um, so it's a return to some of the more instrumental roots of Stephen Wilson with Porcupine Tree, his earlier band, and who we recently reunited and toured with. And so yeah, I made the list. It's one, if it doesn't grab you right away, it will on subsequent listenings. Also, Stephen Wilson, I don't know where he found the time to record this album. He's been deeply involved with, he's done remastering work, older projects for Tull, everyone knows that, and others. But recently released Deep Purple's Made in Japan. He worked on that. The Who's Who Are You? And even the Rolling Stones' Black and Blue. He's one of the busiest people in progressive music. Lastly, from Japan, Yuka and Chronoship, Ribbon Butterfly, released on OMP Company and in Europe and States by Cherry Red. While on the scene for years, Japanese composer, vocalist, and keyboardist Yuka Funakoshi um, didn't debut her band Yuka and Chronoship until 2011's Water Reincarnation on the French Musea label. This album, recently released, mainly stripped down to a duo consisting of Yuka, credited with all music, keyboards, programming, vocals, and chorus, and longtime band member Shun Tageri is credited with the fairy tale-like story, bass, programming, and occasional guitar. Like all of the Yuka and Chronoship albums, this veers from dreamy symphonic prog to harder fusion and moments of hard rock. This is a really good one. Roger Dean, yes, Roger Dean created the band's logo, and his daughter Freya, designed the album cover, and she did a lot of the illustrations and the liner notes, which accompany the lyrics in English language. So that's pretty much what I really liked in 2025, and a few I love, and some were good enough to make the list. Everybody has different, it's music, just like film. Everyone has a different interpretation of what they hear, what they like. You can't like everything. You can't love everything. There's very few that I dislike this year. And what's the purpose of coming on here and say, well, I hated this because somebody else loved it. And I've seen things on the best of lists for other people, but podcasts, Facebook groups, and magazines. And I said to myself, that was a bit much. I didn't like that, but someone else likes it. So there you go. Anyway, that's what I like this year. This is what I recommended. So Have a great day.